Welcome to the Original Gangsters podcast. I'm your host, Scott Burnstein. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. I want to start 2025 with more Canadian underworld war news and kind of put a cap on the 2-year war that was waged between the Sicilian Rizzuto mob and the Hells Angels, which was just an epic clash of the Titans that we are very proud to say here at OG Pod, as well as at our companion web magazine, Gangster Report. We're able to break the news of the peace summit that took place in the weeks before Christmas between Leo Rizzuto, the Godfather, the Mafia Godfather, and Marty Robert, the Hells Angels boss, where they met after 2 years of violence and at least 9 casualties, and put aside their differences. It looks like there could be one final murder related to that war that took place in the last couple weeks of 2024. I want to touch on it. It might not have had anything to do with it, but the timing of it definitely makes you think it's possible that this was, in fact, the last homicide, the last casualty in what will eventually be known as the Great Mafia Biker War of the 2020s in Canada. So the name of the individual who was killed was a Hells Angel affiliate named Mathieu Bellinger, went by the nickname The Beard, and 39 years old, was gunned down, I think in the days before Christmas in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. He was on the run from authorities in Quebec. He was not a full patch Hells Angels member, but was connected very closely to Vincent Bollinger, who goes by the nickname Gussie, who is a full patch Montreal Hells Angel lieutenant. And the Beard was an enforcer and collector and narcotics trafficker that worked for Gussie Bollinger, and was part of Bollinger's crew, which was known as the Brotherhood. So obviously this is only a couple, only days removed from the murder of Bellinger, and we don't know all of the details. We know that the hitters that killed him were on a motorcycle, that he was killed in Playa del Carmen, walking out of a gym where he had just finished a workout. It seems to be a common theme with a lot of these murders in Canada, where they get guys coming out of a workout. So we know that he was killed by people on motorcycles. We know that he's been a fugitive for over a year, had been a fugitive for over a year from Canadian authorities, dodging a drug bust. And we know he has these connections into Montreal Hells Angels, Lieutenant Gussie Bollinger. And it could very well be internal within Hells Angels Nation and had nothing to do with the war with the Rizzuto mob. But because of the timing of it, because almost exactly a year before, Sammy the Shoot Tomorrow was killed down in Mexico, and that was related to the war between the Hells Angels and the Rizzuto mob. Tomorrow was an Italian guy who had connections in both worlds and worked as one of the go-betweens in the drug business between the Rizzutos and the Hells Angels. Bellinger, the Beard, Mathieu Bellinger, doesn't necessarily have those same ties to the Rizzutos, at least on paper. So again, we don't know for sure the motive behind the Bellinger hit, but it kind of fits with the narrative that as things were winding down, there's always kind of one last job to turn the lights out. and Mathieu, the Beard Bellinger, might be the victim of that turning the lights out hit that finishes off the 2-year conflict of just really, I can't overstate how, unique this was, and that you had these two mega powers, the Rizzutos and the Hells Angels, who had worked together in tandem so successfully for 4 decades, at least 3 to 4 decades, and everything just, broke apart in the early 2020s, and then people started getting killed, and major people like Leo Rizzuto had to dodge assassination attempts. And it looks like maybe this was the SQ and the RCMP have said that there have been at least 9 homicides, some of them accidental, where tourists got killed in 2 cases. So there were 7, I guess, cases, not that weren't 2 that were collateral damage, and then 7 tied to the war. This could have been the 8th and the 10th overall Mathieu Bellinger. So wanted to report on that, but and then finish off. I wanted to say give a RIP to an OG Montreal Hells Angel, Jean-Paul Ramsey, who went by the nickname in French, in French Donat. In American, it would be the Donut. And Donut Ramsey was a true OG. We salute the OGs here as much as we can. Originally was with the Crazy Speed Motorcycle Club that disbanded at some point in the late 70s, and then he patched in to the Hells Angels in around 84, 85. Was close to Marty Robert, one of the OGs that Marty relies on for advisors. He's very Marty's known to be a guy that wants to pay homage to the guys that laid the foundation for the monolith that is the Hells Angels right now in Canada, and a lot of those guys that are in their 60s, 70s that did that for this for this group in the 80s and 90s and into the 70s, obviously. Through the Great Quebec Biker War, he wants to make sure that they feel included, and he uses a lot of these guys as advisors and a sounding board. And Donut Ramsey was one of those guys. So he passed away, died of cancer. A guy that had some run-ins with the law over the last 20 years. He had a bust in the 2000s, I believe, and then another bust in the Operation Shark case, which all fell apart. So who knows if that was legit. But battling cancer these last couple of years, and then finally succumbed to that a couple weeks ago. So RIP to Donut Ramsey. I'm sure that that funeral either was or will be a huge send-off. So please check back here at Original Gangsters Podcast. Breaking news across the continent, uncovering the underworld, one city, one region, one country at a time. I'm Scott Burnstein. Please like, share, and subscribe. And Happy New Year to everybody. And keep on coming back for all the great true crime breaking news that that we're going to be providing you here in 2025. I'm out.